Hey everyone, Keith McGinnis here with KCDC Designs out of Eagle, Nebraska. I'm going to show you several different ways to create some very authentic, realistic looking veins. You can use any colors you want, but look how pretty they are. I use Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy. I create all kinds of different countertop designs. Stay tuned, let's just jump right into it. I started off with white and then I fogged the board with khaki, a little bit of chestnut, and leather brown. Now to create some undertones, I'm using white metallic, which is a polycolor mica powder. I'm using pearl white, which is a just resin paste. And then I'm also using interference gold, which is actually a blinged color. That's the one I just put down. Creates a really, really cool looking undertone. Now I could meld that with my hand, and I could do that in a striated fashion, a melded fashion. Here I decided to use my Bondo spreader. And now I have my Alumilite brown dye. And the Alumilite brown dye, I just want to very lightly I can add more if I want to, but let's see how that's going to meld in there. Now all that melding that I just did with my Bondo spreader, that is going to soften out a lot. You really have to be patient when you use that technique and give everything in there a time to really soften up, because it's going to, and it's going to look really cool to the point to where it would probably be a finish all on its own. Now to add colors, I could spray the colors on my paint stick and run those colors in. And let's just go around the corner like that a little bit. You know what, let's do that on this end. I'm actually using 7 different spray paint colors. You can use as many or as little as you want, but in my opinion, the more you put in there, the more effects it's going to give you. And then what I'm going to do is use my heat gun just to open those up and move those around a little bit. But now I'm just layering the colors. Before I manipulate that with the heat gun, I'm going to take a few of those colors in there and just put some highlights kind of out here in space. All right, now let's move those around a little bit. So as I take my heat gun and start to manipulate that a little bit, you want to be cautious not to heat up that whole entire area too much, because right now the epoxy is very fluid. I'm making it even more fluid by using the heat gun, and I don't want to lose all of that and have that run off the table. But I'm just opening those colors up a little bit, and it gives it more of an authentic look. All right, so that was running the stick through there. Now, let's do this one a little bit different, where we'll just take all of these colors and let's run these. All right, so I just showed you one way to create that design or those veins. Now what I'm going to do, let's say you have a very large countertop surface. To speed things up a little bit, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of those exact same colors and I'm just going to spray those onto the surface instead of running them in with my stick. Then I'm going to use that fancy little notched Bondo spreader, which is taking a Bondo spreader and just cutting notches in it. But I'm putting the colors on now, and then I'm going to use my notched Bondo spreader to create those veins. Now I'm putting the spray paint on fairly heavy, so you'll be able to see a little bit of difference between how I did the first one and how I did this one. But you can put them on much lighter. Now I'll use my notched Bondo spreader, and we'll go across that. Now I could run my stick through there to do the same thing that Bondo spreader is doing, but that Bondo spreader really kind of makes short time of that, if you will, especially if you're doing this on a large surface. And then the heat gun, I'm just using that to just move things around, open that up a little bit, and soften that up a little bit, and take a look at how, I mean, you can see what it looks like now, but look what happens after you give it time. All right. So you can see the difference between those two by running those in here with a stick. It left the colors more pronounced, left them a little bit brighter. All right, we're gonna let that cool off a little bit. That's really pretty and very layered. That too is really pretty. and it makes the edges look absolutely amazing. Now that right there, I mean, I could leave that alone, but we're gonna add kind of what's an accent vein through the middle. All right, let's get some color in there. So once again, I'm going to use all of those same colors to create a vein. And that vein can be as big or as small as you want it to be. It can just be smaller accent veins, or it can be more of one that is going to be more of a focal point. And I'm making this one just a little bit larger because I want you to be able to see by layering those colors in, and you can see how I kind of fan that out towards the end. When we get to the flyover, you're really going to see how pretty that is and how you're going to be able to distinguish all of those different colors. So when you're running an accent vein, you're doing the same thing of just running those in with your stick. And then we're going to take a little bit of heat to it, again, to open that up and show you what the difference is. White you got to be careful with because you can see how it really spreads out. But by the time you put some heat to it, it really closes back up and ends up giving a really cool effect. So largely here is just kind of wanting to show you a different way of creating veins, or maybe how I create veins, I guess. And I would love to hear your ideas of how you all do it. Now I could leave that just as it is, but I'm not going to. I'm going to heat that up a little bit. Again, I could have left that as it is and it would have looked really cool, but by taking the heat gun to it and opening that up a little bit and moving it around, because it's spray paint instead of resin that created that vein, you really have a lot more control over how you're going to move that around and open that up. And you can see where I hit those little accent veins too, just to give those a little bit cool effect. So now let's do a flyover, and this is right after I got done. So you can see how things really changed a lot. Number one, from using the heat gun, but also just by giving it some time and being patient, those undertone colors, how those all softened up. With this particular design, how cool it is when it flows over the edges. Remember, that's the one where I sprayed the spray paint on. And again, I sprayed the spray paint on a little bit heavier in that area. That's why it's darker. But you can still see where by using that Bondo spreader and then also by using the heat gun, how it softens all that up. And again, I use the term authentic, but it really does give it more of a realistic look. Because I know when I sprayed the spray paint on there, obviously it didn't look like that. So that's the area right there where I used the stick. And so that gives you a little bit different look. And see how you have a little bit more separation. And again, I used a lesser amount of spray paint than I did in that area there. But both of those, you could use both of those techniques on a countertop, and it gives a little bit of contrast and gives it a little bit different look. Now let's move on to that center vein, and that's again where I used all those same colors. There's that white, which really, really looks cool. One of my favorite colors to add into a vein because of how it looks by the time it's all said and done. But see the separation of those colors, and what you're seeing at the end there where that fans out. Now you can see kind of a separation of all those colors, but it just looks so cool. So again, this video was, oh man, I gotta go back to that because that is, I wish you could see that in person because it really, really does look cool. That is a vein that can be added to any design. You can use any colors. And it really, that's kind of what this video is about, was just showing you some different ways that you can create some veins. If this was helpful, please leave some comments down below and let me know what works for you and how this might have helped you. Please click the subscribe button. I enjoy doing the tutorials, and if I know they help, it just encourages me to keep doing more. So thanks again, everybody.